Hello. Welcome along to episode 164 of Adventures in Pop. My name's Simon Jacobs, and in this episode, I am going to tell you a story. And actually, I'm going to tell you a story that involves a brand new song, which I'm going to play at the end of this video, so hang in there because it is a treat. And in fact, it's obviously integral to the story that I am about to tell you. So a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting down to do a bit of writing with CJ, and we were going to do another Goldhawk Foxes song. We have been working on a whole batch of songs. They're rather good. There will be a second Goldhawk Foxes album, and we had written a few. We are pretty happy with what we got so far, and we're just adding to the selection before we start our release schedule, getting them out there to you. So we were starting to write a brand new song, and we thought as a challenge it would be quite interesting to have a look at the briefs that come in from Taxi. Now, I've talked about Taxi before a few times. I'm a member of Taxi. They are based in Hollywood. They are like the go-between, the interface between TV programs, films, advertising, a lot of which is based in Hollywood for obvious reasons. That's what the American, centre of the film world is. And when you're a member, you get briefs on a very regular basis saying that various publishing companies or labels or makers of film and TV are looking for a certain song. They're looking for a song in the style of, and it can be quite specific. So there we are, sitting down to do some writing. We're not really quite sure what to write about. We look through the briefs that have come from Taxi, and there's one brief with no references attached that just says, we need songs about monsters. So we think that sounds quite fun. Why don't we write a song about monsters? And we set to it. And we spend one whole session, and we've got a little way into it. We're not quite sure, what the structure is at this stage. We're just getting stuff down, getting ideas down. And at one point, I think it's on the second time we meet, we play through what we've got, and I say to CJ, it's sort of, it's nice, but that chorus is a bit boring. That chorus is a bit the same as the verses. And we better do something with that chorus. And by the way, we're not talking about monsters enough. This song seems to glance at the idea of a monster somewhere in the distance, but the song needs to be about monsters. So we had a bit of a chat and had to think about what we could do with the chorus. And within about, a couple of minutes, CJ was singing a different melody for the chorus. I heard it and thought immediately, that sounds very good. We had a bit of an argument then about which voice is singing this chorus thing. Is it a chorus? Is it going to be the lead voice? Where did the backing vocals sit? And I was trying to say, don't worry about that yet, because there'll be backing vocals, I'm sure, and we can work all that out as we go along. Anyway, second session, been and gone. At least now we have we've got a song here with a bit of a good chorus, but it's still all over the place structurally. And then I noticed that the deadline for this Taxi brief was extremely brief, and it needed to be in the following Monday. We're talking about like 3 or 4 days. So I said to CJ, sent him an emergency note saying, you better get round, for one more session. And in the meantime, I started to kind of mess with it in quite an intrusive way, because it needed to be done and dusted and mixed and mastered in about 3 days. We hadn't really finished writing the song. So I chopped it up and put the chorus in a slightly different place, and took some of the verses that we'd already written and put them after the chorus instead of before the chorus, and brought in some rhythms, even though we'd been stripping it out and trying to make it a little bit sort of spare and bare. No chance of that really here, is there? So anyway, we carry on. Importantly, when CJ came back and heard what I had done with the song, luckily he was happy with that, because I had done quite a few things. I mean, it did sound quite different, but I had absolutely kept the sacred chorus and made sure that we heard it a few times, and made sure that the fact that it now talks about monsters, in clear and overt terms, really rather helped. So then we could call the song Monsters for a brief that is about needing a song about monsters. That all kind of made sense. So we did a bit of last minute singing on it. In fact, I think CJ sang the whole thing all over again, which is fine because I think at that stage, you're still learning the notes. Actually, you're still working out how to phrase it, where to pitch every particular note. Even though you might have a general idea of it, you still want to find the optimum places for, the way that you sing. Okay, so we got all that down. And then on the last day, which was a couple of Mondays back, I spent virtually the whole day getting it right, making sure the tuning was right, getting the backing right, doing all the production, doing all the mixing and the mastering, and eventually sending it off to Taxi at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday morning. It needed to be in by midnight California time, so I knew I had basically 8 hours after midnight if I really needed all that time and to stay up all night. I did need quite a bit of it. And as I say, finished it about 4 o'clock in the morning, sent it off. And while we were doing it, by the way, I said to CJ, wouldn't it be funny if after 30 rejections, basically 100% rejections from Taxi so far for things that I've sent, which have been a mix of my stuff, Goldhawk Foxes with CJ, and even a few Rothman and Jacobs tracks, all of which have been rejected. Wouldn't it be funny if this one, got accepted by Taxi after, rushing it through, putting it all together at the very last minute, sending it at 4 o'clock in the morning, being a bit concerned that actually I probably needed a bit more time. When I listen to it now, I think it's good, but it could have done with a bit more mixing and mastering, to be honest. Anyway, probably could have been done with a bit more singing. You probably know where this story is going. Barely 5 days later, the end of last week, I got a thing through from Taxi. Now, normally they take about 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, it arrived by the end of the week. It said, "Congratulations, Simon." I had to read it several times. Basically, for the very first time, a track that we have worked on, this time, CJ and myself, has been forwarded by Taxi. Now, what this means is that they are forwarding it to the client who made the initial request in the first place for songs about monsters. It doesn't mean that the client is going to like it. So I was saying to CJ, what happens now is either nothing, that's a very strong possibility, and we might never hear anything ever again, or there might be something, it might be worth tuppence halfpenny, or it might be the jackpot, and we do not know which of those it is, and I will obviously keep you informed as to how that goes. If you hear nothing ever again about this, I think you can assume that we also heard nothing ever again about this. That's the way it goes. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I know that's kind of standard. But it was quite exciting to get something accepted. First time in all these years. I think it's probably about 3 years of sending things to Taxi. And as I say, good 25, maybe 30 tracks I've sent and never had anything other than a rejection. So this is good news. Let me play you the track. Okay, you probably know by now, the song is called Monsters and it's about monsters. And we made it up in record time. I don't think it necessarily makes a whole lot of sense, but it kind of works. Now, I want to say one last thing. When the feedback came back from Taxi, they said, there was very little feedback. It just said, we are forwarding this song because the chorus really works. And I looked at that and I thought, they could have written a bit more. What about? And then I thought, no, actually, that is really, really good feedback. They're forwarding it on because the chorus works. It's simple and actually it's really instructive. And it says, yes, push yourself to get the best tune you can possibly get, particularly for something like this. If you're trying to sell it, you want something that makes your heart soar, feels a bit like, it is a real chorus. This song has a real chorus. It's called Monsters, and I'm going to leave it with you. It goes incredibly like this. Now, actually, I want to say by the time it gets on a Goldhawk Foxes album, it may have been cleaned up a little bit, made a little bit more sonically gorgeous. But for now, don't have nightmares. Here's Monsters. See you next time.
I thought you were an angel, the way you shone so bright. You cured my fear of sleeping alone. You watched me through the night. You're rent-free in my brain. It don't change when you're away. If people try to warn me, I was too deep in the game. How could I be so stupid, be so stupid, be so stupid? Thinking I never go through this, I never go through this, I never go through this. I know monsters are for real. It don't change the way I feel. I didn't know back then, but now I know the deal. I see monsters all around, but they never make a sound. 'Cause when the sun is rising, they go underground. But something wasn't right. I smelled gas in